Hello and welcome back to Into the Shadows. I'm Melissa. I'm so glad you're here listening in today. Today's topic is going to be a continuation from last week. So if you didn't tune into that episode, or if you did and you need a refresher of what it was, last week I talked a lot about how one of the first steps on my shadow work journey was learning to listen to my body. And not only just listen, but listen for when the moments came that felt blissful. And using that as a kind of compass to guide my life. And the really cool thing is I'm participating in this kind of experiment because I'm so connected to the dream world. When I speak things into this mic, when I go to bed, I will have a dream unfold that furthers the progression of what it is that I was talking about. And so today I wanted to talk about that progression. After I recorded that episode, listening to your body as wisdom, it made me think about how connected the body and the psyche are together, how they're similar. So the body, we get a cut and it knows how to heal us, right? It grows a scab. We know how to breathe without telling our body what to do. And it's the same with the psyche. It's that great mystery that I've spoke of that is guiding you to your wholeness. So just like the body heals and has this innate intelligence within it, so too the psyche has this divine guidance built into it. And oftentimes throughout the day, when I'm thinking of something or I'm doing something or I'm speaking into this mic, I will have a dream that unfolds further. And so at the end of last week's episode, at the very end, I spoke about heaviness in the body. I think I said something along the lines of giving you an invitation to feel the moments when you do feel bliss in your body. But then also at the end I said, and if you don't feel bliss at first and you feel heaviness, that's okay too. And you can offer that part of yourself some compassion. And it's crazy because that same heaviness I spoke of is what started to unfold in my dreams after I spoke that message. And I want to just add this here too, because it's kind of twofold. So I spoke of the heaviness, and then I was out about in my quote unquote waking life, and I saw a homeless man. And he had so many bags that he was carrying around. And it looked so heavy and so uncomfortable. And I just remember feeling so bad for him. And I even thought, like, in my mind, I was like, man, that's like a symbol of all the baggage that he's carrying and that a lot of us carry. So it's just very synchronistic that I spoke of heaviness from the last episode, and then I see this homeless man with all of these bags also dealing with his own heaviness. And that's when my psyche was like, okay, we're going to dive into your heaviness now. So that's what happened. Today, I'm going to just tell you about the dreams that unfolded that were me starting to listen to the heaviness, the very thing I spoke of, learning to listen to our bodies and noticing when we feel bliss and when we feel heaviness. So as usual, I'm going to now share those dreams with you and share with you what is some heaviness that's currently coming up in my life and how I'm listening to the psyche and understanding this pattern so that I can shed it. Shadow work in real time. So the first dream, I was in a movie theater and there was an overweight man who could barely move, and he was behind me. And on the movie screen, a movie started to play, and it was another overweight man who could barely move. That was essentially the gist of the scene. I remember feeling a lot of sadness, and I could tell that this overweight man had a lot of shame around his immobility. And I woke up, and to be honest, I was a little bit annoyed by that dream just because I was like, what was that about? Like, it's kind of sucky sometimes when you wake up from a dream and you realize there's something heavy there and you don't really want to face it or acknowledge it. That's kind of how I felt when I woke up. But I didn't think much of it. I didn't really integrate it or think about it that much. I did notice I felt a little bit heavy in my body. And there was a few times during the day where I just kind of started to cry out of nowhere. And then I went to bed. And the next dream, I'm at the edge of a hike and there's a shack. And I go into this shack and on the ground there's a safe. And it's too heavy to move. But I know that there's money, lots of money in it. And I don't even try to pick it up because I know it's too heavy. And I leave the shack and I go to this outhouse that's by this hike. And as I walk into the outhouse, when I go in there, the safe full of money followed me into the outhouse. And I remember thinking how did this get here? And as I looked over to the toilet, it was completely overflowed with waste and trash and cigarettes. And I looked up on the ceiling and there was a hummingbird. And at first I thought, oh, this thing is stuck inside here. But upon, further looking at it, I could tell that it actually had, there was a hole in the wall and it could go in and out. And so what is this showing me, right? I woke up and I realized that this same heaviness from this overweight man and the shame that he felt was also this safe. And it was interesting because the toilet had garbage and feces and psychic material that needed flushing. And the cigarettes, I'm assuming, are coping mechanisms. I'm not a smoker, but that's how I read that. But all this accumulated shame that was sitting there waiting to be felt. And the crazy part, or the cool part, I should say, is in this safe is money, it's value, and yet it's heavy. So it was this really beautiful parable of or I guess analogy, that the heaviness also can contain the treasure. And that once we let ourselves feel this heaviness, underneath is that abundance, that treasure. And this is a little bit of a side note, but hummingbirds in my dream language are ancestors. And I really believe I saw that hummingbird and it was able to fly in and out of this scene because it was showing me that I can free myself from this pattern, from this heaviness that's lived in my body. So those first two dreams set me up for acknowledging and recognizing that I had some heaviness to shed. And then the next dreams that unfolded were the root of that heaviness. I grew up in a Mormon family, and there's 6 girls. And 3 of us are codependents. I was one of those. And the other 3 are narcissists, which I think is a really interesting topic. And I think I'll get into that maybe next week or the week after. But I was just researching and kind of understanding and learning about those 2 different dynamics. And I think there's a lot of people who had to deal with narcissism and that disorder. And I don't use that term lightly. I know what that means. And I grew up with 3 sisters. They were all narcissists. And that was a really rough childhood and extremely disorienting. And you don't really walk away from that, at least initially, understanding all of the different ways that molded you and shaped you and gave you these different kind of coping strategies or mechanisms. I say that just for a little bit of context, because a lot of this weight that I was shedding was actually a lot to do with that narcissistic abuse. So the first dream that I have after this safe filled with buried treasure is I'm going to a spiritual retreat, and the woman who's in charge of it, her energy's off, and I remember in the dream I didn't really like her, and she seemed kind of full of herself when I got there. And she had gift baskets for everyone there, but she didn't have one for me. And then I remember I brought a salad that I paid for, and I was eating it, and she came with a fork and just started eating off of my salad plate as if it was hers. And then I went over to a table, and there was a picture there. There was 2 pictures. One was a picture of my little sister, and the other picture was of my kids. And I went over and showed this spiritual teacher my kids, like, look, these are my kids. And she completely ignored me. So it was then that I was just like, who is this lady? This is like the worst thing ever. Because of how much I hated it there, I wanted to ask for a refund. But at the moment, I felt kind of bad that she had put all this effort into creating this group. And so I just asked for a partial refund. And I was able to get the partial refund, but I didn't ask for the full refund because I felt guilty. So when I woke up, I was like, what was that showing me? And what I realized it was showing me was this tendency to overgive, to be self-sacrificing, even when people are treating me that way. disregarding, my feelings and stealing from me, I still felt like I still owed her something. So dream number 2, this is sister number 2. I was with my sister and I was watching her listen to a podcast, and it was my podcast. And she was telling someone about it and she was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good." But she didn't know it was me. And I thought that was so weird that she didn't know it was me. And I realized when I woke up that my dream was showing me that I was unseen, that my own sister didn't even recognize my own voice. So what that dream was showing me was that my own sister didn't see me, and that I carried the weight of not being seen. The third dream was actually not about a narcissistic sister, but it was me getting married, and I was supposed to get a ride to the chapel wherever I was getting married. And it was like a cab driver was coming to pick me up, and I was nervous. I didn't want to get dressed because my outfit was orange. And I said I would feel stupid. And so I woke up from that dream and I was like, oh, interesting. This is like a fear around judgment of being in my full creative life force, like my sexuality and my vitality and my creativity. I feared judgment. So the last dream that I had was narcissistic sister number 3. We are by the beach and we're driving on this dirt sandy road in a Volkswagen. And the psyche is so funny because I think it was like 2 days before that I had said, Volkswagens are unreliable. And then my psyche's like, okay, well, we're going to put you in a Volkswagen. So I'm in a Volkswagen and my sister, my narcissistic sister, is driving. And I just remember she starts veering off of this dirt road and going into almost like quicksand, like really thick sand. And she starts going towards the ocean. And all of a sudden, like she gets super close to the edge and the car sinks and goes down into the ocean. And it wasn't deep. I got in and I somehow He-Man'd this car and pushed it out of the ocean and back up onto the road. As I got up there and I got out of the car, I noticed that the path narrowed and you couldn't drive this vehicle any longer. And on the trail, on this path, there was the number 12. So what is this dream speaking of? It's showing how I allowed a narcissist to take me into ungrounded and dangerous territory, to sink my moving vehicle. But the catch is it was never reliable. And me going into the ocean and retrieving this car was me retrieving my life force, my own sense of movement. The number 12, that represents completion of a cycle. So seeing this number 12 on the path represents the magnum opus. And I didn't know what that was, so I'm going to actually just get my phone and read it. It says in alchemy, the number 12 represents completion, the point where spirit and matter come into full harmony. So when 12 appears, it often means something in us has come full circle. Heaven and earth body and soul finally moving together as one. I really love it when I wake up from a dream and there's a number that symbolizes something. I really loved that it was showing me that this is the end of a really lifelong cycle where I gave my power away to those who didn't see me, who didn't care about me, and ultimately who stole from me, which in turn made me doubt my worth. It made me doubt if I was good enough. And I think that's why the dream showed me wearing an orange outfit, but fearing judgment. Because I was never allowed to shine or be myself. I had to self-filter and play small around those who deemed they were more powerful than me or wanted to control me. So to have the number 12 show up as a cycle of completion feels really freeing in my body. And I know that when I started to show up to this podcast and all of the self-doubt spirals and just honestly sometimes just complete terror of being myself and not knowing if what I'm sharing is good enough. I'm just so happy that this cycle is completing and ending, and that I have my dreams that guide me and show me where I'm at on my path. And I can feel it. I mean, it's crazy. This isn't the first series of dreams that I've had around narcissistic abuse, but it is the first time where I really feel like I'm on the other side of what that caused in me. So to recap, all of these things that my psyche showed me were all of the reasons why I was feeling like I wasn't good enough. And so the weight at the beginning with the overweight man, that's showing the imprint. And the safe is showing that underneath the heaviness is treasure. That if I'm willing to show up and feel what I don't want to feel and face what I don't want to face, underneath that heaviness is this abundance. And I took it to mean abundance of life force, owning my power, being in my radiance, and doing my best not to fear judgment, not to go back to the old weight of, am I good enough? And recognizing that when that voice does come up, it's the old patterns of appeasement where I played small, I overgave in places that gave nothing to me. And I did it to survive. I did it to stay in connection. It's a brilliant survival strategy, but it's one that I'm outgrowing. And to be honest, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to self-filter, feel like you're too much, overgive, appease. All of these dreams show that now I'm taking my power back. I'm reclaiming my life force. And instead of looking outside of myself for love and connection and acceptance, I finally get to see myself for me. And that to me feels like coming home. I hope that you enjoyed today's message. I hope that somehow it resonated with your own life and that you're able to see yourself in my story and hopefully gain some insights into your own. If this episode stirred anything in you, if you're having dreams unfold, I would love to hear from you. My email is in the show notes. I hope you have a beautiful day. I hope that you stay kind to yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.